All right, hi everybody. My name is John Kilkenny, the director of the Sewanee Music Festival, and I'm here today with a good friend and colleague, Phil O'Banion, who's the director of percussion at Temple University. Phil's going to talk to us today about his recording project at Temple, and we're going to talk a little bit about the program there and his experiences professionally and his work at Sewanee. But before I do that, I just want to mention that our winter festival application is open. So for those of you watching this that are interested in being a part of the new Sewanee winter program, that's January 3rd to 8th. 2021 applications are open. Visit our website, check out our faculty list, and hope you could be a part of it. So now that the plug is out of the way, Phil, it's good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, John. Thanks so much for having me. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. So before we get into the recording project and everything else, I just want to ask you kind of how things are going. This will be released at a time that we're still dealing with COVID. So how are you dealing with that, and how are things at Temple?
Uh, Things are probably about as good as they could be. Thankfully, I've been seeing my students face to face, or mask to mask, if you will, for the past several weeks. And we've been doing very distance ensembles and, just lessons and ensembles in person. And then they've been surviving the rest of their classes online, via Zoom, the way that most other folks around the country are. But thankful at least to see each other and be in the same room, in brief periods to get some important work done. So I think they're glad to be back in Philly and back on campus doing some work.
Well, I want to be sure we don't drive too far down percussion nerdland here, but I know since it's what we do, for us at Mason, we've been really exploring some repertoire that allows us to be a bit more distant in terms of the space, but also reacting to some programming ideas that are helping to kind of diversify what we do. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, how are you dealing with, spacing and instrumentation? Like, what are some of the pieces you're working on that are allowing you to kind of do this in person, right? Because it's tricky. It's tricky to find that repertoire.
Right. Yeah. I mean, our rehearsal space is what it is. So it's not the largest space, but we're able to fit 4 or 5 students, kind of across the room safely. And largely we've been doing fairly standard things, I would say, just with a little bit more distance than normal. There was a piece that we're doing by Devonte Hines that called for people
Oh,
to
cool.
play on the same instrument. But instead of doing that, we're actually just, having 2 or 3 marimbas. So we're just pulling in extra instruments into the setup rather than having the students directly across from one another.
Cool. Well, great minds think alike, because I'm doing the same thing. We're working on a Gemma Peacock quartet right now that would normally be played on 2 marimbas, and we're using 4 and spacing out.
Right.
So yeah, we're all kind of finding some creative solutions to the work that we could do. Well, it's tough. I went to Temple for my master's degree, as I know you studied there as well, and you obviously run the program now. We can't have a conversation about Temple and about Philadelphia percussion without talking about Alan Abel, who we lost this year due to COVID. We have both talked a lot about Alan together and in other platforms and with other folks, but you have a unique position because of your position at Temple and in Philly as an extra player, additional member with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and all of the things that you do. It's so interconnected with Alan's legacy as a teacher and as a player. How is that all unfolding at Temple? How are the students doing? What's it like? And just kind of give us an update, and also if you can, maybe an update on Mrs. Abel a little bit, how she's doing, if there's any
Sure.
news there.
Yeah, well, first off, Jan is doing fine. She's doing
Good.
well. She also contracted the virus, but remained asymptomatic. So it's just kind of bizarre how this affects different folks. But she's doing well. She's being taken good care of there in the assisted living facility where they moved back earlier this year. I saw her family, her daughter and son a couple weeks ago, and we're just starting to kind of go through some of the basement, the
Mm.
music room, basically, where he taught for, 50 plus years. And it's all still a bit surreal, honestly, because he was such a major part of the percussion scene at Temple and in Philadelphia in general. And, being with everything the way it is right now, there really hasn't been a sense of closure yet, right? I mean, he passed in April, but there's been no real memorial service that people could attend publicly. So I think that's been a little bit strange for all of us. But we're hoping for a time when we might be able to gather and do something to memorialize him and his legacy a bit more formally. We are going to do some kind of a video tribute at the Percussive Art Society convention next month, and so we're hoping to get some good footage of him throughout the years and be able to share that with his students and his colleagues and the many lives that he touched over his decades of excellent teaching.
Absolutely. I mean, he was such a force. I mean, you were kind enough to ask me to come in and do a Zoom session. I guess it was right before no, it was in February. I don't know, February, March. I can't remember when it was. But and Alan, I was so happy and shocked and surprised and to see Alan on the Zoom. I mean, he
Right.
was right there asking questions and
Yeah.
engaged with what was going on. And then just a few weeks later, this happened. And so I can only imagine what it's like. I know for all of us that studied with him and the community at large, this is just still kind of a surprising thing. So and difficult thing to process. So thank you on behalf of all of us that I know you're on the front lines of this, dealing with it and working with the family. And I can't think of anybody better to represent everything that we're doing, everything that Alan did than you to handle that. So thanks for doing that and keep us all posted on what happens. I know we talk pretty regularly, so there'll be a tremendous turnout to support his legacy and his work. So thanks for that.
Sure. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about now to stay on Temple for a second, but now onto some things that are happening with your recording project. So I know you've done quite a bit of recording pre-COVID on a number of works, and I want to kind of talk about that and how you settled on the repertoire and how the recordings went. And while you're talking, I'm going to share the screen here so we can get the website up and talk about kind of this whole project. So
Sure.
over to you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for talking about the album. It's probably the one rather productive thing I've done in 2020 is to finally finish this project up. So it's been a labor of love. Typically every spring, with the exception of this past spring, I do a chamber music recital with some of my faculty colleagues and other players from the orchestra here in Philadelphia, and often some of my students or graduate students will get involved. So this really kind of came out of some of those collaborative projects that I've been doing, and I've been working closely with Charlie Abramovic, who's our director of keyboard studies at Temple, and so Charlie and I play or work together on all three of the tunes on the disc, and it just highlights just some different, really just some different programs and projects that I've been involved with over the past couple years. There's the first track on the disc is a recording of Bernstein's Halil for flute solo and piano percussion. And so we were joined by Mimi Stillman, who's a fantastic flutist and runs the Dolce Suono ensemble here in Philadelphia. And she, of course, teaches adjunct with us at Temple. And Mimi was just a joy to work with. Obviously, she sounds exquisite on the recording. I hope everyone can take a listen. But she's also just was really excited about the project. Even helped me write some of the liner notes. Her energy was infectious on the project. So
That's awesome.
I think the recording of the Bernstein is an incredibly kind of poignant way to begin this disc. It's in some ways the most understated work on a disc entitled, Radiant Outbursts.
Right.
But it definitely, all three of the tunes kind of deal with this theme of sort of the human spirit versus, some more nefarious forces, be that death or war or, sort of the science and technology, sort of the mechanical, the non-human side of things, right? That can sort of begin to take over our lives in various aspects. And so that's kind of a thread between the three pieces, but musically and sonically, they're all extremely different. So, the Bernstein has incredible soft moments. It has, the way Bernstein writes, there's both tonal and atonal forces throughout the piece. There's, of course, a lot of, it's written, it was written based, in tribute to a soldier who died in the Yom Kippur War in 1973 in Israel. And so it's kind of a tribute to that young man who was a flutist, and so it's supposed to be basically representing his voice and his spirit. And then, of course, you hear the percussion is kind of the military and the armed forces in places, and you hear the two sort of sparring back and forth. But I think it's a tremendous piece, and so we did it with flute and percussion. It's originally written for harp and strings as well, but Charlie did an incredible job of condensing the string parts down into just piano. So I think it's a lovely version of this piece, and I hope everyone can hear Mimi's exquisite treatment of that solo part.
She's a great artist and a wonderful colleague. I've had the privilege of meeting her and hearing her play as a connected to work with Music for All, and
Right.
she's a Yamaha artist, and we share that. And
you guys see each other
what a joy.
Every summer, frequently, right?
Frequently, at those events, and then also at the Music for All program in March, which she does flute classes for. She's a wonderful player and colleague. So I look forward to checking that out. So the title of the recording came from, I guess, the second piece here, and we're going to check a little bit of this out. So tell me about that Radiant Outburst.
Yeah. So Radiant Outburst was conceived by Adam Silverman, and if you're in the percussion world, you know Adam's work, because he's really been writing a number of fantastic pieces for, involving percussion, probably over the last 5 to 6 years. And so I had asked him. I recorded his marimba concerto 4 or 5 years ago with our band at Temple, and I said, "Hey, Adam, what do you think about writing, a piece involving percussion and just kind of mixed chamber instruments?" And he said, "Yeah, sounds fantastic." And I think he actually came up with the instrumentation, which is marimba and clarinet, cello, and piano, which is
Cool.
it's a very unique instrumentation. But you sometimes people might think, well, marimba and piano, what are you going to do with 2 keyboards in the ensemble? But I think Adam solves that problem very creatively. As soon as he suggested the instrumentation, I said, all right, I know the people that I want to collaborate with. So we got Adam's wife, Amy, to play cello. She's a fantastic cellist.
Yeah,
yep. Teaches at Juilliard Preschool, and she's just fantastic. So she joined us, and then Ricardo Morales, who of course is the principal clarinetist of the Philadelphia Orchestra, plays clarinet on that track, and then Charlie again, Abramovic, joins us on piano. So it was just fantastic quartet. It's an incredibly effervescent, energetic piece. If you know any of Adam's music, again, it's got a couple beautifully lyrical sections, and he really allows Ricardo just to kind of stretch out and play just this gorgeous solo in the middle of the tune. But it was fun as a marimbist. I have to say it was challenging, like most of his writing, but it was not impossible. So I don't think I had to ask him to rewrite anything. There were a few things in the concerto that we did have to tweak a bit.
It's always a good standard when you could say it's not impossible, right? Like we could actually make this work. I think there's I know there's definitely a thing in percussion world where, we really hate to say to composers we can't do something, right? And especially folks like Adam who are skilled at writing for our instrument. So and I know you're playing it, so I know if any minor rewrite that had to happen, then it wasn't playable. So yeah, he's a wonderful composer. Amy's a great cellist. We went to school together and we're still friends, and stay in touch. And she's great. And so we're going to listen to a little bit of this now, I think. So
great.
Let's just. Gosh, Phil, I was about to say drop the needle, which will date me more than I ever want to. So I'm going to hit the.
We're not that old. Yeah.
Great. That's just a little taste. So, we're scrolling the website for this right beneath here, and also folks can see where we are with this. I hope everyone will go check it out. It's really beautiful playing. I listened to all of this before to this morning, and yeah, I'm excited to hear that piece again and to connect with it at some point in person. I'd love to hear it live. So very cool. Ballet Mécanique, yeah, kind of needs no introduction, but go ahead and do it anyway. And just a little bit about that work and why you chose it with these other two pieces, because it is a pretty different. Well, I think it's different. I mean, you might prove me wrong on that, but how this landed on this album.
John, is my mic muted?
Yeah, no, that was
There
my
we
fault.
go.
You're
All right,
on
we're
now.
good.
Sorry.
No worries. Thanks. Yeah, so the Anthill was kind of a bucket list project, and I know I'm too young to be checking things off my bucket list, but it's one of those pieces that all percussionists know about, and it was exciting too because it really involves different kinds of percussive forces. Four pianos and percussion. And so it's another piece that Charlie and I could collaborate. And so he pulled several of his doctoral students in, and then I grabbed the students from my ensemble, and we made a go of this. But yeah, it's really an incredible piece. It's I think we used 12 percussionists, so there 16 people on stage. Not the kind of thing that we could do, at the moment, but it was exciting to finally be able to learn the score and to explore it with the students and to really give this what I think is kind of a fresh take on it. So there's two versions of the Ballet Mécanique. The original one, which is a bit longer, frankly, and a bit more cacophonous, if you can imagine. The original version called for something like 16 player pianos and just yeah, it's a rather raw, rough edge score. So then 30 years later, after Anthill had matured and later in his career, he revisited the score and he made a lot of revisions. He basically cut out everything that wasn't needed to sync with the film. Initially it was supposed to be done with this film by Fernand Léger, and that whole collaboration didn't, if you know the history, didn't really work out. So they basically just went on with their separate projects. It's still done with the film sometimes, but it takes a lot of creative ingenuity to kind of make the two sync up. But anyway, he came back and he revised it. He cut out basically all the repetitive stuff that he thought he had just put in there for the film. And I think what you're left with is you still have the energy, and you still have sort of the outrageousness of the original version, but you have also some textures that I think are really just a bit more. I don't want to say it. They're definitely more mature. They remind me of Bartok. They remind me of some of like the Bartok music and strings, for percussion and celeste. Some of those textures, and so I think overall, in my mind at least, it's a better piece of music than the original. It shows a larger emotional range, and so with that aspect, I felt that it fit with the other two pieces on the disc. It's obviously the most outlandish one on the track, but I think probably the one that represents sort of the kind of the machinery and the mechanistic march of kind of technological progress, and then we really wanted just to contrast some of the other human elements against that backdrop in the other two pieces. So that's why I think they pair so well. It's a study in contrast, basically, which as a percussionist I love to do. I love to explore all the different instruments that we get to play on a regular basis and all the different colors and sounds that we can. And so I think really across this disc, there's a huge variety of color and just sonic textures that you can explore and enjoy, I hope.
It's really awesome. So I'm going to just tell everyone to go check it out. The website is here. You could find it all on all the different platforms, Apple Music and iTunes and Spotify and everywhere else. So definitely check it out. And before we go, Phil, I just want to give you a chance to talk about it, kind of anything else you want to talk about. You've been part of our SseWanee faculty, I think, since I switched out of teaching and kind of became the director, but you've sent students before that, so I'm grateful to you for that. And it's just we've had a chance to do some work together there in the summer.
Hmm.
and look forward to more of that. But I know you've had students with us as well. So just for a minute or two or less than that, if you want, just kind of
Yeah.
talk about the work you've done with us in the summer and kind of what we're looking forward to in 2021, assuming that we're all able to be there again on the mountain in some way or another.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. My family and I always enjoy coming down
Yeah.
to the mountains of Tennessee. So, being that we're from Texas, it's a little bit, it's nice to get south, a little bit back into the south every now and then. So, um, yeah, so I've probably sent at least half a dozen students, now to Sewanee over the years, and they've all, my early ones before I joined you guys on the faculty were, all had great experiences working with you, working with, their fellow students and the other faculty members, and I could just see that it was a special place. They were growing, they were learning, they were able to explore some unique repertoire, just kind of in a super fun, safe environment, and I've found the same since we've been there. Like I said, my wife and I and the kids enjoy loading up in the car and coming down to join you guys for a couple of weeks in the summer. And the students are great. It's a lovely setting, obviously, but I think just the intensity of the program and the ability to really put professional level concerts on with these students. Basically what we're doing is even more so than we do, than you and I do in our college programs. We're able to really kind of immerse them in a professional musical environment, right? So where
Absolutely.
it's, you've got a week and you're going to learn this program, and then we're going to bring the audience in and you guys are going to do this. And so it's a way for them to understand a little bit more what you and I do regularly, as professional players. And I think it gets them out of that kind of sometimes what is a rather narrow mindset of kind of the typical kind of university student university program. So I think it helps broaden their horizons. It allows them to meet with students from obviously other programs in other countries even. So it's a fantastic time, and I'm excited about the lineup. I think that you and I've been working on for the Winterfest and
Yeah.
and for summer 2021. Fingers crossed. So
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time in January. I just was able to confirm yesterday that Shii will be joining us and Javon Gillum will be joining us. So we've got a nice group assembling, and we'll have some more folks to announce soon. So January is going to be fun, but nothing really beats getting to actually go there, right, and be there. So
right.
we're really hoping that we can do that. Everyone wear a mask and stay away from each other a little bit longer, and maybe we could actually gather again. But well, Phil, listen, I just want to tell you, and this is unprompted, certainly, but as an alum of Temple, the graduate program, it's been really great for me personally, and I know for not just me, for everyone that's ever kind of come through Temple to see what you have done since you started in the job and been able to really bring that program, the entire program, into a really great place. And so thank you for doing that, and congratulations. I know from my own experience, it's building a program and crafting what you want to do is really tough, and you have to navigate political considerations and artistic considerations. And there's a legacy at Temple that's so profound in one area, but then there are other things that are growing now too, and have grown into a significant program. So congratulations and thank you for doing it. And I enjoy watching from down the highway a little bit at what's going on up there. We
Yeah.
oftentimes use the program as a bit of an example of like, well, they're doing this at Temple, so I need to be able to do this too, which I'm grateful for. So thanks.
Good. Well, we all do that. No, thanks. And certainly it's not just my work, but
Of course.
my team of faculty, of course, Alan was the one who really put the program on the map, but I've had working with me really the past 10 years, in addition to Alan, Chris Deviney, who's the principal percussionist in the Philadelphia Orchestra, and Chris has now really kind of stepped up to help kind of fill Alan's shoes in a bit as far as kind of taking on some of the graduate orchestral teaching. He's really doing the bulk of that now, and but he's been really involved with the program for a number of years, and I'm not sure that everyone's been aware of that. So he's been doing great work with us already the
Yep.
past 10 years, and and his colleague too, Angie Nelson in the orchestra, who I think may be joining us for Winterfest too, actually, right?
We're optimistic about that. Yeah, I'm
Good.
hopeful
Okay.
that will work out.
We'll
Yep.
see.
Yep.
But Angie's come back and teaching with us a little bit, and
Oh, cool.
Bill Wozniak and Rolando, of course, who is doing a fair amount of teaching now that he's locked out of his show on Broadway through
Yeah.
June of 21. So,
Wow.
but all these are just fantastic artists and musicians, and it's great to be able to share ideas and collaborate with them. And I think it's fantastic for the students that they get to interact with all of us,
Yeah.
and not just me or not just one of us, but they get differing perspectives, and they get sort of our collective experience and wisdom, during their time here with us. So.
Well, and that's so important, that culture, that any successful program has. I mean, you could just look at, any. I'm not going to rattle names off here. I'll miss somebody and offend them. But any successful program is a team, and it's diverse opinions, and I think the students benefit from that. And I'm glad to see that as a community we've kind of evolved past the one person. I don't know what the right way to say it is. So the one person running the whole show, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think that had its time and it had its place, and it was, they're larger than life characters that, made that generation or those generations up. But our students need so much more now than just one thing. I mean, they need
Right.
so much, about playing, but also, you bring a perspective professionally of, from, working as a substitute player, as a principal player in other orchestras, as a freelance musician, as a, I mean, there's so many other things that you bring to the table, chamber music and solo playing that students need to know how to do in addition to their excerpts and their solo work, which of course, at a very high level. So, anyway, now that we've had this nice mutual admiration society, I just want to, before we wrap up, anything else you want to share? How can people reach you? How do we find out more about the percussion project, the recording project, and things that are happening at Temple or professionally with you?
Sure. Well, the disc I've got linked. I think it's linked on my bio page at the university. It's, I posted it to my Facebook. I'm not really an Instagram guy, but it's probably there as well.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
And anyway, my email's on the website. Just Banya@temple.edu. If any of the Sewanee community wants to reach out to me and has further questions. If you'd like to actually purchase a physical disc, we do have a limited pressing. So if you're still an old school hi-fi, stereophonic listener, you can grab a CD and throw it throw it in. So
that's very cool. That's I can't believe that CDs are vintage now, but that's
yeah.
very hip. Phil, it's been great to catch up. It's always nice to see people, even if it's in this format. And I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad your family's well. And as your kids move up here, we'll have a place for them in Sewanee, right? We'll have a place for them in the orchestra, and whatever else we can do. So we're happy to provide that for our faculty. But
that sounds good. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all the good work you're doing on behalf of the whole Sewanee team. So
it's great to see you, Phil. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Take care.